first will before this is not in a syllabus, but for knowing this Barrett's esophagus, it should know the what is the gastroesophageal reflex disease, GERD. Gastroesophageal reflex disease, which is called GERD in acronym. Acronym is GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. Now it is a esophagitis, inflammation of lower end of esophagus. It is inflammation of the lower end of esophagus because of reflux of gastric content in the esophagus. No, gastric content come up. That is called reflux, and that gastric content contains bile, acid, bicarbonate, mucus, which is irritant. So this esophageal mucosa is not used to that type of acidity, so it undergoes inflammation. So that esophagitis caused by esophagitis of lower end is caused by gastric content, and that is called GERD. It is largely limited to adult over 40 years. Clinically, it is manifested by heartburn, dysphagia, or regurgitation. Regurgitation means gastric content come up to the mouth. Many times, that khatta, dakar or something. Or pain behind the sternum. Burning pain behind the sternum, that is called heartburn. And dysphagia, of course, difficulty or pain in eating. So that is a clinical manifestation. And sometimes, if it is very severe, it may be associated with bleeding. That is hematemesis, that is blood in the vomitus or blood in the stool. And what is the complication of this GERD? GERD can be converted into stricture of the lower end of esophagus, or it may undergo what is called Barrett's esophagus. We'll be talking about Barrett's esophagus and its significance later on. So this is a GERD, which is a cause of Barrett's esophagus, as well as it is cause of lower end of stricture of the lower end of esophagus. These people keep on coming. Now, what is the pathogenesis of the GERD? It is decreased efficacy of anti-reflex mechanism. No, anti-reflex mechanism is there. That is that sphincter at the lower end of esophagus contracts, so content do not come into the esophagus. So that efficacy of that sphincter is gone. There may be hiatus hernia. Hiatus hernia, that is hernia in that the gastric content come into the chest. So that is hiatus hernia. The third one is slowed esophageal clearance of reflex material. It stays for a longer time in esophagus, whatever comes into the esophagus from the stomach. Then delayed gastric emptying. So the stomach doesn't empty fast, so it is a full, so it comes back in the esophagus. And the last one is reparative capacity of the mucosa by protected exposure to the acid. Protected exposure means continuous, repeated exposure to acid, and that will affect the reparative mechanism. So these are the various causes of GERD. Under microscope, what you will see in a GERD, in a esophagus, under microscope, before that you will be. So three histological features are characteristic of uncomplicated reflux esophagitis, although only one or two may be present. First one is eosinophil with or without neutrophil. Eosinophil without neutrophil in the epithelial layer. Second is basal cell hyperplasia. And third one is elongation of papillae in the lamina propria. This intraepithelial neutrophil, they are the markers of the severe injury. So the three things are elongation of papilla, that is dermal papilla in the lamina propria. Second is basal cell hyperplasia, basal cell of epithelium. And third one is presence of eosinophil and neutrophil, which is more important. So this is a normal esophagus. This is normal esophagus. See, no neutrophil, nothing. This is reflex esophagitis. See, these are the elongation of dermal papillae. This, this, and there are inflammatory cells in this. I'll show in higher power. These are the eosinophil in the epithelial layer, and there will be neutrophil also. So this is a GERD, etiology, pathogenesis. So what you will remember? Presence of eosinophil or neutrophil in epithelial layer, elongation of dermal papilla. So GERD, three features I showed you: basal cell hyperplasia, elongation of dermal papilla, or eosinophil or neutrophils in the. So that is a gastroesophageal reflux disease. And then we go to the Barrett's esophagus, which is the important topic for today. And etiology is chronic complication of GERD. As I told you, for knowing Barrett's esophagus, you should know the GERD. 11% of all GERD patients have Barrett's, and it is characterized by replacement of normal squamous epithelium of the lower esophagus by simple columnar epithelium. So it is metaplasia. Metaplasia of squamous epithelium by columnar epithelium, and that columnar epithelium is also the system of goblet cell. So it is called intestinal metaplasia. Because squamous epithelium is not able to tolerate acid, whereas columnar and intestinal epithelium is more resistant or used to acid. So this metaplasia occurs as a protective phenomena. So squamous epithelium is converted to intestinal metaplasia. So this you should remember. It is intestinal metaplasia, and this goblet cell is very important for diagnosis. Presence of only columnar epithelium is not going to make it a. Presence of columnar epithelium is not going to make this. You have to have a goblet cell, which is intestinal metaplasia. So it is gastric metaplasia is columnar epithelium. Intestinal metaplasia means it should have a goblet cell. And it is what is the importance of this? It is a pre-malignant condition. We are talking about earlier the oral mucosa pre-malignant condition. So this is also pre-malignant condition of the esophagus, and virtually all adenocarcinoma esophagus arise from Barrett's epithelium. 30 to 40-fold increased risk, because esophagus is lined by squamous epithelium, so squamous carcinoma will be there. But adenocarcinoma occurs in 1/3 of the lower end of the esophagus because of this intestinal metaplasia from which that carcinoma will arise. Now, age incidence is 55 to 65 years. Male is more than female. Etiology, I told you, is GERD. Second is smoking and tobacco. Third is alcohol. Fourth is obesity. So you have to have the causes of GERD like hiatus hernia, incompetence of the esophageal reflex, all those things. In addition to the causes of GERD, you have to write smoking, tobacco, alcohol, and obesity. So these are the etiological agent for the Barrett's esophagus. Now, pathogenesis, it is adaptation. As I told you, adaptation to chronic gastric reflux exposure. That is, gastric reflux contains acid, pepsin, bile, and pancreatic content. So it is adaptation to this irritation by this gastric contents, and it is now considered this bile in gastric juice causes the intestinal metaplasia. Bile in gastric juice causes intestinal metaplasia. So this is pathogenesis. It is a protective phenomenon, adaptation of squamous epithelium, converting it to intestinal epithelium just for prevention that ulcer and all doesn't occur, or irritation doesn't. It can tolerate better. So this is a pathogenesis. It is grossly it is diagnosed by endoscopic examination, and under microscope a biopsy is taken, which is essential for diagnosis. Because as I told you, you have to demonstrate that goblet cell metaplasia, that is intestinal metaplasia, not only columnar metaplasia. For that you require a microscopic examination. So under endoscope, you will see one or several tongue-like red patches. of the mucosa extending upward from the gastroesophageal junction or lower part of esophagus. You'll find patches of red column in the lower end of esophagus. And this is the metaplastic mucosa, and this red one complicates with the pale one. It alternates with the red and pale because the complete circumference of the esophagus is not affected. It only forms tongue-like projection from the lower end of esophagus upward. And it may be long segment type, more than 3 centimeter long, or can be short segment type, which is less than 3 centimeters. So there are two types depending on the length of this metaplastic mucosa. Under microscope, as I told you, you have to see the intestinal metaplasia, which is hallmark, and for showing the or confirming that it is intestinal metaplasia, you have to show the goblet cell, which is essential. Complication of the Barrett's esophagus, as I told you, it is precancerous, so dysplasia and adenocarcinoma. Now you can see this is a normal esophagus. Earlier also I showed you white. This is gastroesophageal junction. Now these are the tongue-like projection of the intestinal metaplasia. See 1, 2, 3. Alternate white, alternate red. White and red. And this can be long segment, 3 centimeters, or can be short segment. This is stomach. This is stomach. This is a esophagus. Now this is normal. See, this is common if this junction, that gastroesophageal junction. This is normal common. This is a gastric mucosa. This is normal esophagus. I have already showed you this common. Now here you see this lower part of this has been converted to this metaplastic columnar. These are the finger-like projection, that is villi. And I'll show you in high power, they will be having goblet cell. These are squamous remnant of the squamous epithelium. So see the whole patch here. This has been converted to intestinal metaplasia. So this will be seen under. This is another diagram, and you see these goblet cell, these vacuolated, the pit, intestinal pits. These are the goblet cell. So they are not only columnar cell, they are having these goblet cell, vacuoles. This is another, see, this is much more severe. Now here you can see better intestinal metaplasia. See, these are the villi, and they all are having this goblet cell. This is squamous epithelium. So this is a metaplastic, because you don't find this intestinal goblet cell in the stomach or in the esophagus. Now this is dysplasia. See, this part, hyperchromatic, multi-layered, dark staining, pleomorphic cell. You know, this gland is plastic gland. So this is a dysplasia, and later on we'll go to carcinoma. Now, what are the neoplasm? Other neoplasm of the esophagus? Benign is mostly it is mesenchymal, leiomyoma, fibroma, lipoma, neurofibroma, and lymphangioma. Squamous papilloma. These are all we have told you, leiomyoma and all that. Not that important. Main thing is malignant. That is 6% of all malignancy. Squamous cell carcinoma or adenocarcinoma. Squamous cell carcinoma, I have already told you. Adenocarcinoma is the most important here, and we'll be talking about adenocarcinoma of esophagus. It accounts for 1/3 to 1/2 of the esophageal malignancy. That's why it is important. And after 40 years of age, more often in men, 10% patients will have Barrett's esophagus, and they will develop adenocarcinoma arising from Barrett's epithelium. And less than 30% 5-year survival. Pathogenesis, pathogenesis of the adenocarcinoma, Barrett's esophagus, and long-standing GERD, tobacco use, obesity, and radiation, that is the same thing. And then Barrett metaplasia, that is intestinal metaplasia, going to dysplasia, finally carcinoma in situ, and then carcinoma. Morphology occurs in 1/3, distal 1/3, Initially, it may be flat, a raised patch, a large mass. So there are three types. One is large mass. Second is infiltrative, that is infiltrating diffusely the esophageal mucosa, and then ulcer forming, that is ulcerating. So there may be ulcer, there may be cauliflower growth, that is fungating growth growing in the distal part of the esophagus, or it may be diffuse infiltration. So in stomach also, when cancer, will be talking three types. So you remember flat or raised patch, infiltrative, diffusely, or ulcerating tract. Under microscope, it will be features of adenocarcinoma anywhere, that is, tumor will produce mucin and it will form gland. And these glands are of intestinal type because it is arising from intestinal epithelium. And you can also see the Barrett's esophagus in adjacent area. Second type, which is called signet ring, that is diffuse infiltrating signet ring type of gastric. So these
पता
are
थोड़ा
the.
बाकी है अभी.
Hey, Divya Saini, who is this making noise? So there is signet ring type and there is a mucin producing that adenocarcinoma forming glands. Signet ring type is this individual cells, cancer cell containing mucin will be diffusely infiltrating. So this is a, you can see these are the nodular protection in the lower, or it is a nodular or exophytic growth. This is a cut section of the esophagus. You can see the whole esophagus is blocked by the cancer. These are the bronchi, these are lung. And this is a adenocarcinoma of the stomach. See this adjacent, this intestinal metaplasia of the lower end of the esophagus, and this is a adenocarcinoma which is infiltrating deep in the muscle. Squamous cell carcinoma, you know, like every place, like oral mucosa or squamous epithelium, that is skin. Now, only thing you should remember this, because this may come in the this MCQ. What is that? 20% arise in cervical or upper thoracic esophagus, 50% in middle third, and 30% in lower third. So the most important area from which squamous cell carcinoma arises in esophagus is the middle third, not the upper third or lower third. Lower third is 30%, upper third is 20%, and middle third is 50%. So if this comes in MCQ, you should know the middle third. And metastasis of carcinoma of the stomach occurs early because you should know that esophagus doesn't have a serosal lining. There is no serosal covering in esophagus. Muscular layer, submucosa and mucosa. So carcinoma will spread fast. And these are risk factors. Dietary factors, lack of vitamins, lack of trace metals, fungal contamination of food, nitrites and nitrosamine, lifestyle, alcohol consumption, tobacco use, urban environment, esophageal disorders, long-standing esophagitis, achalasia, Plummer-Wilson syndrome. Plummer-Wilson syndrome is the web formation in the esophagus. That is, this occurs in iron deficiency anemia. Achalasia. Achalasia means the lower part of esophagus, that is sphincter, doesn't function well. So it doesn't open. So the whole stomach is dilated. That is called achalasia. Then there are certain genetic conditions where. So these are the various risk factors of squamous cell carcinoma of esophagus. So risk factor of oral mucosa is different. There it is this tobacco, chewing tobacco, all those more important. Here it is this other factors like dietary, lifestyle, of course alcohol is also here at tobacco. But there are additional factors also which are not there. Clinical features is progressive dysphagia, means difficulty in eating, swallowing, steady substernal or back pain, weight loss, anorexia, blood loss, hoarseness and cough. 5 years survival is. Now, as I told you, morphological same. Polypoid. See, this is exophytic mass. Polypoid means polyp-like, growing in the lumen. Then second is ulcerating, forming ulcer in the wall. And third is diffuse infiltrating that causes thickening and rigidity of the wall and narrowing of it. So this 3 types of gross. So any cancer starting from esophagus, stomach to large intestine, small intestine, it will have all this feature and gross. It may be exophytic, that is polypoid, it may be ulcerating, it may be diffuse infiltrating. So you must remember this. This is a radiograph. See, this is a cancer, and this esophageal lumen is, this is a cross. This is another showing this carcinoma of the squamous cell carcinoma of the. Man, under microscope, like any oral cancer, it is keratin forming. Differentiated will be having plenty of keratin. It may moderately differentiate or poorly differentiate. So this is a esophageal squamous cell epithelium. See, this is a cancer infiltrating the deeper into the wall of the esophagus. See, these are all cancer cells which are infiltrating in the wall of the, and these are keratin formation, keratin pearls, keratin pearls. So we have finished